The winter sun had barely risen when the world outside looked washed in pale gold, the kind of morning that felt too calm for what was about to happen. Frost clung to the railings of the quiet suburban street, and the air carried a stillness that made every sound echo a little louder. It was on this cold, quiet morning that Rowan Hale, one of the youngest CEOs in the city, stepped out onto the porch of a small rental home, expecting nothing more than a routine check-in for one of the charity projects his company sponsored. But what he saw instead changed the entire course of his life. A little girl no older than 6 stood at the top of the steps, her blonde curls dusted with snowflakes, her backpack slipping off her tiny shoulder. Her lips trembled as she looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear, and in the softest voice, she whispered the words that made his breath vanish into the cold air. "Sir, my mom isn't waking up." Rowan froze, his heartbeat thudding in his chest like a drum. For a moment, he couldn't feel the cold biting through his coat or the snow gathering on the porch, only the urgency in the little girl's trembling voice. And before he even realized he had spoken, he heard himself say, "Take me to her. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and people helping people, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from?" The little girl, Alya Whitley, led him inside the small, dimly lit house. Rowan had been in countless luxury homes, offices, penthouses, but nothing prepared him for the sharp contrast of Alya's world. The living room was neat but filled with signs of a life stretched thin, worn-out shoes by the door, a space heater humming weakly in the corner, a second-hand couch patched with fabric. Alya moved quickly, through the curtains cast a soft glow over a young woman lying on a thin mattress. Her hair spilled across the pillow as though she had fallen asleep while reading the papers scattered beside her. Rowan recognized her instantly, Mira Whitley, the freelance accountant his company occasionally hired for seasonal projects. She had always been quiet but determined, the kind of woman who apologized when she handed in perfect work because she thought she could have done better. Now she lay completely still, one hand resting near a half-finished audit form, as if life had hit pause without warning. Rowan knelt beside her, checking for a pulse the way he had once been trained during a mandatory corporate first aid workshop. Relief washed over him when he felt a faint but steady heartbeat. She was alive, just unconscious. As Alya clutched his coat, he tried to stay calm for her sake. He called emergency services, and within minutes that felt like hours, an ambulance was pulling up in front of the house. Alya gripped his hand tightly, refusing to leave his side. Something about her trust struck something deep in him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. After the paramedics took Mira to the hospital, Rowan didn't leave. He carried Alya to his car, buckling her seatbelt gently as she watched him with wide eyes that seemed to be searching for reassurance. On the way to the hospital, she told him small pieces of her life, how her mom worked nights so she could attend school, how they sometimes skipped dinner but always sang together before bed, how she wished she could help her mom rest without being so tired all the time. Every innocent word felt like a weight on Rowan's chest. At the hospital, they learned that Mira had collapsed from extreme exhaustion and untreated anemia. She had skipped too many meals, too many doctor visits, too many hours of sleep, all to keep life going for her daughter. Rowan listened, stunned by the quiet sacrifices she had made every single day. Something inside him stirred, a mix of guilt, admiration, and a strange protectiveness he couldn't explain. He remembered the last conversation he'd had with Mira months back. She had asked if she could take on more work, explaining she needed extra income for Alya's schooling. He had been too busy, too wrapped up in corporate chaos to think deeply about her request. Now, standing in the hospital hallway, he wondered how blind he'd been. Over the next several days, Rowan visited Mira and Alya consistently, bringing warm meals, books, and small toys for the little girl. Alya stayed close to him, often holding his sleeve or slipping her hand into his without hesitation. Mira, weak but improving, apologized each time he walked in, embarrassed by her situation, but Rowan gently reassured her that she had nothing to be sorry for. He admired her resilience, her strength, her devotion to her daughter. He began to see that she wasn't just another name in his company files. She was a mother fighting battles quietly and bravely, the kind of person who deserved more support than she had ever received. One afternoon, after Mira had recovered enough to talk more comfortably, Rowan made a decision that felt both natural and deeply necessary. He told her he wanted to offer her a full-time position at his company, one with better pay, benefits, and a schedule that would allow her to rest and take care of Alya properly. Mira burst into tears, not out of weakness but from the relief of finally being seen, truly seen, for the first time in a long time. Alya, hearing the news, clapped her hands and hugged Rowan as though he had just given her the world. And in a way, he had. Weeks passed, and the small home that once felt weighed down by worry began to fill with warmth again. Rowan helped fix things around the house, brought groceries, repaired the old heater, and even surprised Alya with art supplies after she mentioned she loved to draw. He didn't do these things out of pity but because something about this little family had touched his heart. They reminded him of the life he had been too busy to appreciate, the humanity he had nearly lost in endless boardrooms and busy schedules. Mira grew stronger, her health improving and her confidence returning. Alya smiled more often, her giggles becoming a regular sound in the house. And Rowan found himself visiting long after business hours, sometimes bringing files to finish at the kitchen table while Alya colored beside him. Months later, on a warm afternoon filled with sunshine instead of snow, Rowan watched Alya chase butterflies in the yard while Mira laughed softly from the porch. Something inside him shifted again, the realization that helping them had changed him far more than he expected. He had walked into their lives as a stranger, but now, he felt something like belonging. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us spread more kindness-filled stories. Before we end, tell us in the comments, what part of this story moved you the most? And as Rowan watched the little girl he once found trembling in the snow now dancing freely under